Hey, there we go. Good morning, Two Rivers Church. Which camera? This one right here. You know, in real TV, they have like a red light on the camera that's on. There's 3 cameras in here. So anyway, good morning. It is the Dave and Mark Show, and here's the deal. Dave left the building. In fact, Dave, I think, left the state. He's on his way to Florida with his family, working on that white body, going to tan it up a little bit. So we're going to have a Mark and Dave show. Welcome, Dave. We're going to zoom out here. There we go. Oh, look.
Hey, it's everybody.
Not only Mark and Dave, but Mark and Dave and Tim and Todd. So it literally takes 3 personalities to replace Dave Grun. So if he's listening, I know that feeds his ego a little bit. So Dave, 3 of them. He will love that.
Hey, balanced out by the fact he just said he's working on his white body.
He is one of the.
Well, yeah, that's like came out there though, because you were calling it the Dave and Mark Show, but everybody can see that it's
clearly Mark and Dave in the morning.
Well, there you go.
You needed a jingle.
Hey, you guys, this isn't your Thursday stick. You know, you got to be serious.
Sorry.
You got to be grown-up pastors today.
okay.
I'm going to take charge for a minute, and I want people to get to know you a little bit better. And I think you've done a decent job on Thursdays for us to get to know you a bit. But one of the questions I have for you, I want you to think about where you were when you were 15 years old, the summer of your 15th year. I want to know a little bit more about you. And so just so you can, and I know I didn't give you this question ahead of time, I'm going to actually, I was thinking about this earlier, and I thought, well, I should probably answer that. I'm going to ask you that. So I was 15 in 1976. And the Enneagram wasn't a thing back then, but I had a friend who was at times a romantic interest. Her name was Trisha. And sorry, Terry, yeah, there were people before you, but Trisha must have been a 7 on the Enneagram because there was always something fun happening. Like that's the summer. Her dad was the insurance agent in town, and she got a moped, and I think you're only allowed to have one person on the moped, and you're only supposed to go like in your neighborhood or whatever. We went like all over the Atlantic City, Ocean City, Ventnor, Margate, all over that South Jersey area in the back of this moped. Went over bridges that you weren't allowed to go over, and it was crazy. It was also the summer, or that year, she taught me to drive a stick shift. And if you can learn to drive a stick shift in a Volkswagen bus or van, I guess it was at the time. Remember the old Volkswagen bus?
Yeah, absolutely.
They were one of the hardest stick shifts to drive. And that summer also was the summer, I mean, every summer was, we lived at the Jersey Shore, so we would pound on the baby oil and just bake at the beach, which is why I have to go see a dermatologist every 6 months now. But it was also the summer that I went to one of my very first concerts. You probably already know who that is, right? 1976?
James Taylor.
No, I love James Taylor, but very first concert.
I think we talked about this once.
Elton John.
Oh,
Elton John.
Really?
In 1976, and this is long before you guys were even being thought of, but in 1976, Elton John was played at the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Wow.
And he sang Philadelphia Freedom. It was big bicentennial year for us. And one of his guest features, and one of his guests came on the show, and they sang a duet together. Do you know what the song was? In 1976, he sang a duet with somebody else.
I was 3, so I don't have much recollection of that event.
Okay, here it goes. Don't go breaking my heart. You know who it is? Earlier. Oh, honey, if I get arrested. Kiki D. Elton John and Kiki D. So that's where this person was.
So say that name again?
Kiki D. That's all I remember. Her name was Kiki D. I think that's true.
That sounds right. You know what else was in the Philadelphia Spectrum in 1976?
What?
Rocky Balboa's fight against Apollo Creed.
It was a powerful year.
Yeah.
It's a big year.
Boobar.
Anyway, that's where I was at 15 years old. Where were you, Dave Nichols?
Well, we were living in San Diego.
That was
and
6 years ago.
Yeah, here it goes. Here it goes. Yeah. 1976. Oh, good year.
Where were you
Yeah,
when you were 15?
read about that.
15.
So when I was 15, so my birthday's in the summer, and so we there was 3 of us friends that were turning 16 within like a week of each other. So 15, we planned this big beach party, and we went to the beach, and the waves were great that day. Actually, I remember this, and they call it shore break. So it's right on the shore, and I was going, and I ate it, and I flipped up and landed on my head and got a concussion. I'm going in the 16. So
like hospital kind of concussion?
No,
or?
it was just like, oh, I'm kind of messed up for a little bit, and you just kind of deal with it, and probably stop what you're doing so you don't get worse, you know? So we were going to the beach a lot when I was that summer. And that's the summer that I actually started liking my wife. And we started becoming a little bit interested. Our birthday, liked her.
Yeah.
More than just like friend like her.
Yeah.
Like.
Did she return the like?
She liked me first, which made it even better.
nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was,
first.
yeah.
That's a
the
good way to
first.
go.
So here's what's killing me a little bit here. I got to call it out. Like, you said, I think in a couple messages ago, I'm really not the surfer dude, but dude, the first memory, like, I'm surfing. What was the phrase you used?
Hold on.
Cali Dave.
What did he use? What was the
Surf
phrase
party.
when you went under? What'd you say? There was a phrase you just used a minute ago, like when you went under the waves.
I don't know.
It was
like,
surfer language. It's language we don't use, but
shore break.
oh yeah, the shore break. Oh yeah.
Shore break.
Yeah, we did that in the Midwest also.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, in Wisconsin, we were always stoked to hit the shore break.
Wisconsin. Well, it's not my fault I didn't live in Wisconsin. My parents loved me. What can I say?
Oh,
Wow.
Going
Yeah,
to the
that-
Thursday
yeah.
show.
Joe and Charlotte are no longer watching.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were serving the Lord, so that was good. Yeah.
So anyway, you were liked
But I
by your
didn't
wife, and you
surf.
liked her back.
Yeah, I didn't surf. Some people probably here would call it boogie boarding. There we called it bodyboarding. You lay down. It's not nearly as hard. That's what I was doing.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Since it's the Mark and Dave show, like
just
my
ignore
brother surfed, but like we body surfed.
Body surfing is
Like,
super fun.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I can still
What is that?
ride that wave all the way into
Yeah.
like the shells are ripping your
Just-
chest
yeah,
open.
yeah.
So
What
you
is
don't
that?
need a surfboard.
You don't need any
You
board.
catch a wave and you just
You
duck.
just swim into the wave and then you just lay flat as a
In
board.
fact, I can
Body is
still
the board.
impress my family how far I can go body surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And what's fun is when you do that and you actually crash. I remember going to youth group. I was probably about 15. We'd go to the beach on Wednesday afternoon. We'd come back to church, and when you crash enough, you get so much water up your nose. I remember sitting there praying, and all of a sudden, water is just draining out of my nose. So that was fun. Yeah.
Of course, you were praying.
We were praying at that.
good.
That's the only time I'm putting my head down. Yeah.
How about you, Boobar? 15-year-old Boobar.
15.
Did you look exactly like you do right now?
He was counting his sneezes.
You probably owned that shirt when you were 15, right?
That may be true.
You probably had that shirt since you were 15.
I do have some shirts like that, but this is not one of them. I, like Dave, have a middle of the summer birthday. But so I remember more the summer I went from 14 to 15. The summer I turned 15 was my first summer away from home, and basically
Your parents made you
Where'd you
move
go?
out when you were
all of my summers from then on were away from home. So I went and worked at camp all summer, and I don't know, I can't remember what grade that was. Anyways, it was the summer I turned 15.
What'd you work? What camp?
So there's a little camp, a little all-boys camp in northern Minnesota called Nathaniel Brigade Camp. Camp Nathaniel, and I could go on and on about the impact, like just everything. It's almost every day I think about something in me that was shaped by that experience, seriously. But the camp's in northern Minnesota. I think I just hit 100 pounds. 15 years old, and
So you were a football player.
and
In the last couple of years, you've kind of been going back and forth under and over 100.
That May I hit 100 pounds at the end of my freshman year of high school. That was painful. And then we had to do lifeguard training. And the first week of June in northern Minnesota, the ice has been out of the lake for 3 weeks, a month maybe. It's cold water. Zero body fat. Anyways, I just remember almost dying, blue lips, just all the time, just frozen. But it was my first summer away from home, and so I had to do laundry. Most of the guys lived within a couple hours of camp, so they could go home on the weekends. I lived really far away, so we didn't go home on the weekends. It just was like a whole new world of independence and adventure, and going to Taco Bell and spending your own money, on 59-cent tacos, and it was the good life. It was for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Todd?
It was 1990. Is that right? Because we're the same age.
I was alive
Well,
then.
for me, it was that summer I turned. 1990. Yeah, 1990.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was playing lots of baseball between my freshman and sophomore year. So my dad was a driver's education teacher. And so that summer I had perfected driving a stick. That was the only way.
Did he have brakes on his side of the car?
but he was so used to having that
He was
when
hitting
he
the floor?
yes, yeah. So I learned he would not let me learn on a regular car. Like I had to learn with a stick. So that was cool. And I had an orange Escort. We've talked about that on the Thursdays, but lots of baseball. That's pretty much what I did all summers. And then we'd take a vacation to Minnesota for a couple weeks to go fishing. But biggest memory of that summer is I know you can see my head a whole lot better than you could then, because I had a lot of hair then. It might even had a little bit of long in the back.
Business up front.
I was
Did
going,
you have the
I was
Canadian
going for the
waterfall?
MacGyver look though, not.
Did you spike it a little bit
mullet.
up?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I had hair then, but
I wish we had a picture of that.
that summer,
right now.
playing basketball, I was rebounding. I was blocking somebody out.
Yeah.
And I jumped up and somebody was behind me and I hit their teeth. And so I got stitches in my head up here.
Nice.
And then later on in the summer playing baseball, I was catching, threw off my mask, and the pitcher we were getting a pop fly, and he hit my head, and I've got a scar right here with more stitches from his teeth there.
So that was
that's
the summer
the
of
summer where I got
teeth to the skull brain? Just
Yes.
Bloody
Summer
mess?
where two people bit your head.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
You got no questions about that. And
I
these-
mean, that's.
Hey, Todd, you were really nervous about being here today, so we're just going to stare at you and let
you
all
guys-
the attention be on you for a minute. yeah, exactly. Oh, I don't know what that was.
Was that a water bottle?
bottle.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to be spending less effort. I mean, for some people, that's probably going to be good news, and other people maybe
It's
not
going to
so
be
much.
great
but
news.
We're going to be spending less effort in our midweek gathering here in front of cameras and in an empty space, and trying to figure out what that would or should or could look like going forward. We still have this week's Thursday with the pastors, and we'll have a word from the pastors and all that. So we're looking forward to your spiritual challenge of the week this week. But next week's going to look very different, and we're not promising anything online at this point next week. And the reason why is because we're going to be spending a lot more energy and effort working on our weekend services. We're actually reemerging.
Yeah.
Any applause from the
Oh,
community?
that's-
I'm holding a mic.
And so
do those
I'm trying to.
hand
I
waving.
don't want to go off script here today because this is fluid though. We said we have a phased.
And we're rookies at this show.
Oh, yeah, you're new, so there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, well, I'm flying solo then if you're not helping me out here. But hey, what we're moving back into is what we're hoping to get back on the campuses. And we said we had phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and we're going to speed those up or slow those down depending on the information that was coming in. And we feel like the information that's been coming in has allowed us to think about getting back on campuses sooner rather than later. And so the good news is usually, Roane County is like behind the 8 ball. Like we're kind of moving here. I can't use this language like the mothership and the main campus.
No.
All those things are bad. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. I'll put $1 in the jar later. But Roane County is actually going to be leading the effort.
That's
and
right.
So it's next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, June 21st. Oh,
Sunday.
Sorry. That's
Sunday.
important to correct.
Sunday.
Next Sunday, June 21st at 9:30
Yep.
and 11.
Right.
We're going to be gathering at the Roane County campus to have our first reemerging. I don't even call it reopening. We're just going to be reemerging
Yeah.
on our campuses. What might that look like?
That's going to look like, well, number one, it's going to be really fun because
Yeah, it is.
to see everybody's faces again. I called Stephen Alexander last night just to let him know the news, and he was ecstatic. So he immediately called all his volunteers, and they're all ecstatic. So people just want to see one another, and so we're looking forward to it. So it's going to be, we've taken out every other row is taken out just to start with, so it's going to be about half capacity. So one of the things I do want to ask, I didn't get this clear with Mark, but I'm going to ask those that normally have kids in that 11 o'clock service, those who do not have kids in the 11 o'clock service, if you would come to the 9:30. If you're normally going to that second service and you don't have kids, just come to that first one. We just need to really be able to space out and make space for everybody. So what that else is going to look like is we're working through getting the building just set with hand sanitizer, making sure everything's clean, just making space so that we can have space and get back together. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it
So
is.
you'll have live worship.
We are, yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Good deal.
It's going to be exactly what we've had out there, minus a row of every other chair rows, and no coffee to start. So there's a wah-wah.
detail.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
a
there's
little,
going to be a few want-wants, but we're going to figure it out.
Yep.
And we're going to get to some of the specifics I think are consistent across all three of our campuses, right?
Right.
All three campuses. But Harrison Lane. The
Yeah.
following weekend, we're looking at, make sure I get the dates right, because it is a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yes.
All three services on June 27th and 28th, which is a week earlier than we were hoping to get back and 2 weeks earlier for Roane County. So what will it look like? What's been going on this campus?
So this campus has turned more to studios than anything else lately, and so we're excited. We've been working with a team to figure out what re-emerging looks like. And so we've been getting rooms set. We're doing, just as Todd was saying, removing every other row. So we're setting rooms to max capacity, like what we would do on a Christmas Eve, setting them to max capacity and then pulling out every other row. And then, just making sure everything's stocked, and we're coming up with plans to wipe down stuff between services, and because we're going to have multiple services over the weekend. And one thing we are going to ask is that if you know which venue you're going to go to, park closest to that venue, because one of the things that we're going to have to do is kind of, after service is done, kindly ask people to congregate more outside, so that way we can get stuff wiped down. And so if you can park closest to the venue, so if you're going to go to the student center, then if you could park down by that end, if you're going to come into the live center, the live area, then park closest to that. So just a couple details, and we're still working out some final detail stuff, but
So we're all going to be able to communicate next week. Jennifer's in the room too, and she's our communications person. So we're going to be able to get all that stuff online. So we're not assuming that the entire church is watching Facebook Live on a Tuesday morning.
They're not?
They're not. No, it's like your family, my family, and a few other people. But anyway, we're getting that information out there. And my family's probably not even watching.
I'm not
that
sure
was a
mine
huge.
is.
That was,
Yeah, I
that was a
don't
huge assumption. But we did do this last week. If you were watching our programming last week, we had a guest. It was the first time we had a guest on the Dave and Mark show, and it was Tim Bumar. Yeah, groundbreaking. And this week it moved to 3 more guests, and we popped 1 out and 3 in. We're interchangeable here.
Yeah.
And so Bearden went through a pretty significant change. We were meeting in Pond Gap, and we weren't sure about the elementary schools or the schools, like really through all of Knox County. I think there was like 12 or 13 churches that meet in schools, and that was all in question.
Yeah.
And we ended up back in a place that we looked at almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Was it 2?
Almost 2 years ago, yeah.
And excited about being at the Hamburg Theater. I guess we're not calling it that. We're calling it the Bearden Campus.
Well, it's the Bearden
And so-
Campus building now. It used to be the Hamburg Theater. It used to be the Terrace Tap House.
It used to be lots of
It
things.
used to be lots of things, yeah. Epic nightclub.
And we're moving back into that for worship.
Yeah.
And we don't know if and when that, like, when's that going to happen? We got 2 launches that are on 2 different dates. When's Bearden opening?
Well, yeah, just the reality is, I think it's just part of life with a church that meets in multiple campuses, is sometimes we can do everything all together the same way, and sometimes we got to customize a little bit. And so in this case, it means Roane County can open up a little earlier. For Bearden, we still have one more hurdle to get over, basically, before we can meet in the new building at the Bearden campus. So, as you've heard us talk about, it used to be a movie theater, then it was a nightclub. So the city zones things a particular way, and we need it to be reclassified as a place of worship. So we need and then we need a certificate of occupancy from the city, and that's just a process that takes time. So we're still working through that, and praying that will happen, and that it will happen soon. But some of that is out of our hands, but we're doing all we can to do that. But we want to follow the law of the land and not get in there before we're legally allowed to be in there. So we're going to get in there and start making things ready for worship. We just don't know if, and that could happen this week, and we'd be great. We'd start at the same time as Harrison Lane, or it might be delayed a week, or we just don't know.
So what are your people going to do? Are you going to join us? You're just going to hunker down at home? You're doing some watch parties now, right?
Yeah, we have some small groups doing watch parties and things like that. So yeah, we'll if we can't open the same time as, at least as Harrison Lane, then we'll encourage our people to, Bearden folks to choose another option. And if worshiping at home is good for them, great. If they'd like to come and join in maybe they're not in a small group, join in with a group at somebody's house for a Sunday morning watch party, worship together. It's great. In our backyard with our small group, last weekend, we sang, I didn't know the first time we did that. I was like, well, I don't know.
Mask or no mask?
No mask. We were outside in the backyard, and I just thought, well, I don't know if we'll sing or not, but we sang. That was one of the best parts about it. So we'll find ways to worship together.
All right, so you three also have served as kind of like our, for the last couple months actually, our hey, what are we doing? How are we going to reemerge? What are our precautions? What do we need to be doing, not doing? And you've been watching all the CDC stuff as well as churches around the country. And we sent a survey out last week to our body, and I think we had favorable response, like 850 or something.
A lot of people responded.
A lot of folks responded, maybe close to 1,000 folks. So that's good to hear. And we got some reviews back in terms of what people would do. And I'll make a statement. I'm going to ask a question like, what are some things that are emerging? What are even the conversations that we need to be having even before we get to next week? But one of the things we know we're committed to is that we don't want anybody to feel like they are in a place that they don't feel safe. Ever. And so we understand that the world that we've created right now, we're not on campuses currently, we're online, and we're going to be on campuses and be online, and that's a lot. In fact, our tech people are working overtime, and the transition between going back to or figuring out what the new normal is, that bridge, that transition bridge is going to be pretty tight for our worship folks, our tech folks, producing a lot, which is why we're not going to be able to spend effort, energy during our midweek things, because we're really going to be pushing toward the weekend, not only online, but in person. And so that's a lot. And so planning for that, you need to know, folks, that if you're not feeling comfortable yet and coming back, that's got to be something you weigh out personally and know, hey, we're not there yet. In fact, a lot of people did respond. I think 20-30% said, hey, we're not sure when we're coming back, but we're not coming back at the first time the doors are open, where another 50-some% said, hey, as soon as the doors are open, we're coming back in. And so we want to accommodate all of that for some length of time until we find out what normal is. So there will continue to be an online experience, and so what you'll experience on an online experience is a lot of the worship that we've enjoyed over the last several months will be what we're going to continue to provide online. You can correct me if I say anything wrong, because Grun would jump in a heartbeat, right? So anyway.
You're knocking it out.
So anyway, we're going to continue to provide that worship experience, but the message from the weekend will be dropped in. So there will be a little bit of a difference. There'll be a worship experience that we've already recorded for the weekend, and then there'll be a recording of what's happening in a room with people in it that's also going to be dropped in to our weekend experience. And so
it's going to be the Saturday night message that's going to be plugged in. Yeah.
Which makes some of us speakers really happy, because Saturday night's always one of the best runs at the sermon. So yeah, it's exciting.
It's better than sitting in front of a camera and trying to preach to a camera,
that's
right?
True. You're so positive.
It's
very positive.
Yeah, it's way better than that.
So in light of some of the things that we've talked about, what are some other some topics you think we need to be mindful of, or folks need to know that we're mindful of as we kind of launch back and are moving back to campuses? Besides, you've mentioned a few things, like we're cleaning. We have an amazing cleaning service. Actually, they're amazing. I could speak about them personally. Like it's always been an immaculate building, but we're taking even further precautions and making sure that we're cleaning more consistently. And we will be cleaning between services and all, right?
Yeah, and trying to, there's always, you can't make everything 100% safe. So it's always a balance of, we want to do all that we can, kind of within reason, to keep things as safe as possible. And so, one of the kind of our guiding things has been, when we come back, we want it to be better than being online. And so one of the things that we've thought about is it's being together for worship. Some of the the things that make it better is seeing the faces of the people that you're worshiping with and singing together. And so we want to do that. And if we get, there's always the possibility that infections surge again, and we have to, and the whole county has to regress a phase or something like that. And that could mean that for us too. So it's not just putting our heads down and charging forward and saying, all right, now we're good. We want to keep our finger on the pulse of the health of our community. And we want to keep things simple. So when folks come back, we just want to make sure we give you simple instructions on how to, just set things up so we can stay 6 feet apart while we're at church together, and minimize opportunities for transmitting any kind of virus. But we want to try and keep that simple.
Well, we've had to make some adjustments to our actual services. I mean, we're going to try to limit the length of some of the services. We're obviously not doing meet and greet where it's like, hey, shake somebody's hand. That's gonna go away for at least now. So there's some things
Like
within
nod to your neighbor?
Yeah.
Acknowledge your neighbor.
So my daughter was
Look
just
them
in
in
a
the eyes.
softball tournament, and after the games, instead of giving high fives, they would just wave to the other team. So
Air five.
Yeah. Spiritual high fives. Yeah, that's pretty
And
good.
What did you gave like what did you do there?
finger guns. Pew, pew, pew. You can only do finger guns at somebody.
Yeah.
This is in ours, in our phased approach online. But just to reiterate, so everybody knows, we're when we regather on campuses, that's phase 3, and phase 3 still means we don't have our kids ministry going on. So that's another factor for families is choosing: are their kids going to be in service with them, or are they going to continue to worship online with their family, or take turns as parents and let the little ones stay? I mean, we got a toddler at home, so
He's active.
Elliot's not making it through a service.
I don't know how much time we have left. How much time do we have?
3
minutes. Oh, 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So I was going to ask this question. I'm just going to ask myself and answer this question.
Okay.
What are the things that concern us about getting back together? And I just say one of the things that concerns me personally, and I think us, is that we be people that respect each other.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's at a different place with this. And somehow and I don't want to get on a soapbox, but somehow I feel like it's tied to like this judgy place, and it gets tied to politics, and it gets tied to all these different arenas that, like, our hope and prayer is that when we get back together, like, our worship experience here is better than what it'd be at home. Yeah. And part of the worship experience isn't just what we're masked with or not masked with, what we're doing, but it's a matter of the heart. And that we would know that everybody's kind of walking through this at a different place, in a different space, and comfort levels look very different for people. And so our hope and prayer is that when you come back, and join us, that that'd be a place where love continues to abound, where we would be respectful and not be putting people in camps or categories depending on some of the outward things that are going to happen or not happen as we figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just reminded that in Romans, Paul urges them to consider the needs and the perspective of the weaker brother or sister. And so whoever you think the weaker brother or sister is, if you think the weaker
It's probably
one,
me.
if you think the weaker one is the one who's so scared they have to wear a mask all the time, okay, well, consider their need. Or if you think the weaker one is the one who's so terrified the government is going to ruin their lives that they'll never wear, whatever you think the weaker brother or sister is, fine. That's fine. You can have that opinion, but we're brothers and sisters in Christ, and so we're going to consider the needs of those who maybe we go, oh, they don't, maybe they aren't approaching this the way I do, but that's not the most important issue. Yeah.
Well said.
Yes.
Well said. Hey, a couple last things, and then if I miss something, you guys can do cleanup. But one of the things that you need to know is we've been working toward highlighting our missionaries. We support several missionaries, but we're going to be highlighting our 4 partnered missionaries over the next 4 weeks. And there's a great interview. I want to give you a link to that. You go to our events page on our website, and it's a great conversation Pastor David Gruen has with Aaron and Denise Birchfield, and our partnering in Berlin, and just a great way to catch up with them and see. It's really current. It's not something that was done like last October and we're just running it now. It's a conversation about where they are, what life looks like in Berlin right now under the same circumstances, and how does ministry go forward. And so over these next 4 weeks, each week we're going to highlight one of our missionaries.
And
so,
those are all people who our church is like, they're part of the mission of our church.
Yeah,
They're part of
absolutely.
what our church is at work doing in the world. And so it's important stuff. I mean, I think we should all want to know
Yeah.
what's going on there.
It's a great
it's
space
a
to
cool
be.
opportunity.
And the other thing I'm really excited about is tomorrow night, our midweek gathering is it's sort of prayer, but it's prayer and like we're encouraging folks this week to be praying for families. We've all been indoors for a bit with our families and our loved ones, and our campus pastors really believe that God was calling us to actually give some tools to assist marriages. And so it's literally a marriage. I don't like the word conference, but it's a marriage conference. I mean, it's not just the three of you talking about marriage on a brown couch. We've brought somebody in to
they don't
actually
want
walk
that.
through. It's
Yeah.
going to be an evening where you can spend a date at home,
Yeah.
and more than just a date, having real meaningful conversation about your relationship. And so
Yeah.
you might want to be nudging someone, your wife or your husband, to sign up, have somebody take care of the kids. And I don't know if you want to give a little bit more promo about that, but that's tomorrow night.
Yeah.
It's something that one of the things that we talked about is marriage conference. That almost sounds scary, like you're going to have to spend hours and hours upon this thing. This thing's an hour and a half. I mean, it's right around that, and we just kind of host it. And Les and Leslie Parrott are the people that are kind of putting this on, and so. Don't fear that, like, oh, I've got to be there Friday night and then I got to show up all day Saturday. No, it's not that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's something that, you know, maybe you're just hearing about it now. We've done just some quick promo on this as it's come together, but really kind of with the understanding and assumption that most of us still don't have anything going on in the evenings, and so you probably don't have. It's tomorrow night, but you probably don't have anything on the calendar for tomorrow night. So, and if you can't get a babysitter, no worries. Like
Put a movie on for kids.
Hopefully you got
and-
two
yeah.
TVs or a phone or something. Put a movie on in front of the other kids. 90 minutes. Get the kids watching that. Get them in their rooms reading a book if you're a better parent than I am, and you'll get to, like.
Does Elliot read yet?
He's not quite there.
Yeah,
He's a
okay,
sharp
I was
kid.
just wondering, yeah.
But, you know, it's a chance to, it's not like this high pressure thing that's going to ruin your night.
No.
You're going to get to laugh together as a husband and wife, but also go, ooh, okay, there's something we could actually try so that.
There's a lot of practical things
Yeah.
in what
Yeah.
they're going to give you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be good.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Not just saying that because we're marketing it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
It's good.
Hey, great time together, Todd. You did fine.
Oh,
You feel
thanks.
good?
Thank you, Mark Hoffman.
You were nervous, but you did great, man.
Air
It was
five.
awesome. And hey, we love you. We miss you. We can't wait to be back together. We might not see you on this couch next week, but we hope to see you in one of our venues.
Yeah, we're gonna
sometime
see you soon.
Have a great Tuesday.